Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this day of the NBA Finals here, the fifth day of June. Got the Mad New Yorkers supposedly going to be here shortly. Going to be talking about Aaron Rodgers has signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Reported today he will sign there with them. Talk about that as well. Of course, Mad New Yorker, got to ask him about Tom Thibodeau, get his take on that, and I'll play a clip from Keith Engel last night as well. We'll go over that, of course, talk a little bit of NFL mini camps and whatnot. So stand by. We'll give a finals prediction before they tip off here in about 40 minutes or so. We'll take our first only break. We'll be back here momentarily and hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then, I'm back here live. So having a little bit of problems there with my deal there. It looks like we got it squared away now. So we've got Aaron Rodgers signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers today, 1-year deal. Now I'm looking through some of the notes here, and it simply has not came about the amount of money. Rodgers will be the oldest quarterback in the NFL. Just in front of Joe Flacco at 41. Joe Flacco's 39. I think Joe Flacco's actually 40. Rodgers will be 41 years old. So it's going to make him the oldest quarterback in the NFL. As far as the odds and whatnot of over and unders, looks like the Steelers are still at about 6.5 wins. I thought maybe it would push them a game or two up to 8 or 9.5. That's not the case. It's a very tough division they're playing in. Remember, they have a new offensive. They have a new left tackle there. Now they got the same offensive coordinator. They let Dan Moore move on in free agency, signed here out of Nashville with the Tennessee Titans. Now they have. I want to say it's Broderick Jones, yeah, he's the second-year player out of Georgia, moved him from right to left. And, of course, third-year player out of Georgia. And, of course, Troy Fautanu out of Washington, which is a pretty good right tackle. I actually like that right tackle here. Rodgers will have DK Metcalf to throw the ball to. So I think this will make them interesting to watch, per se. Then say a Mason Rudolph or a Will Howard, which is the rookie out of Ohio State. So here's the thing. They need to reset at quarterback. I mean, this is good for the general fans of the NFL. I think this will probably be 8, 9, 10-win team and probably get put out in the first round like last year at best. At worst, they could be right at that 6.5 and not make the playoffs and be set up to go out and get a quarterback. Get a quarterback in the 2026 draft. It's supposed to be a deeper draft. You got guys like Cape Kublik, I know, that would likely be coming out in that particular draft. Possibly the South Carolina quarterback per se. I do not think that Arch Manning is going to come out. I just do not think so. But we'll see. We'll see. Which would put them, folks, which would simply put them right about the 18th to 21st position, like they were this past year. So they're going to have to find a way to move up in the draft if they go that particular route. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They're good enough. They're good enough not to be drafting in the top 5, and they're bad enough, good enough not to be drafted in the top 5, but bad enough not to actually win a playoff game. So they need a new head coach here. They need a new quarterback. They need a new philosophy per se. Like I said, and been talking about before with Ralph Williams, which I want to say that Mike Tomlin's got about 2 years left more on this contract for that call, and then they're that they'd be in position next year or possibly in 27. So you kind of this is like a bittersweet day for Pittsburgh fans to sign Aaron Rodgers. You know, I don't think anybody's making any Vegas don't think so. They still got him at 6.5 wins. And I just checked the FanDuel. I just checked their website there just before I got on the program, and they're one of the best over and unders out there. So I'm waiting for the Mad New Yorker to come on the program, and he has not came in yet. Let's see. I'll go ahead and send him a text here and see what the deal is. As far as the AFC North here, as of today, it still looks like the Ravens probably have the edge. And, of course, this is no breaking news. Can the draft picks hit for Cincinnati? Can the draft picks hit for Cincinnati? If they could hit for Cincinnati, Cincinnati's got more than a better shot to win that division and ultimately get back in the Super Bowl. That's a $64,000 question right there. And then you look at Cleveland. They've got 5 quarterbacks in the room. Everything with Shedeur Sanders is a wild card. What are they going to eventually do about Deshaun Watson's contract? Are they going to work out an injury settlement? They're still having so much guaranteed money. So the Steelers look to be that team. They could potentially be the team in the cellar here. But that being said, I've underestimated the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last 5 years. You know, I thought they would lose to Cincinnati at an open game a few years ago at Cincinnati. What'd they do? TJ Watts has a game of his life, and then they go up there and beat Cincinnati a few years ago. Trying to see where Pittsburgh in waiting. I don't know where. Let's see. The Mad New Yorker is supposedly come in, and let's see. I emailed the link, buddy. Yeah, we'll see what the deal is with him. So we're still waiting right now for the Mad New Yorker to get his states on this situation here. But anyways, let's talk about the finals, and then I'll revert back to that story when he ever pops on there. He says he's there waiting. I don't know where. Let's see. Aaron Rodgers, Mad New Yorker. I don't know where you're at. Let's see. Might have to go to a commercial break. I don't know what he's talking about. But anyways, like I said yesterday with Keith Engel, I like the OKC Thunder. They're big favorites here. Not sure that they're going to sweep or win in a gentleman's sweep against this Indiana team. I do think this Indiana team is playing at a very high level right now. I think they have enough veteran leadership. Plus, you're talking to a very young team here in this Oklahoma City Thunder that's had about 9.5 days off. Okay, I could see some rust setting in there per se, and potentially losing tonight possibly the Indiana Pacers, because the Thunder are major favorites in this game. I've seen this happen before when the Lakers were major favorites in 2001 against the Philadelphia 76ers. And, of course, Philadelphia went up there and stole game one in L.A. Now, of course, the Lakers went home and win the remaining 4 straight games, per se. That was fun to watch. But could this happen? Possibly. It could happen tonight. They could potentially get the upset tonight. Plus, I don't know what the deal is. I think he is. Let's go ahead and take a quick break here, and let's see if I can get the Mad New Yorker back on this program here.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the Sharp-Dressed Man and the Big Story Breaker, Robert Butler, on SportsScope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America. Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with...
All righty then. I sent him back the link again. I think he's going to end up popping up here. I think he's going to be here any second. Let's see what happens here. I got a feeling I was in a hurry. Got about 10,000 questions from this new apartment I'm looking into, and I may have sent him from the wrong program. But going back to tonight's game, as far as the regular season is concerned, Oklahoma City, they swept them in the regular season. But look, this team was one team worse than the New York Knicks. And, of course, they went on the road. They beat the Knicks in 6 games, talking about this Indiana Pacer team. They have a veteran coach's edge. Coach has got a championship. Very young coach there with the Oklahoma City Thunder there. So you got to break it down that way. Now, of course, they do have a size edge on the inside with Hartenstein and, of course, Chet Holmgren versus Pascal Siakam and, of course, Miles Turner there with the Indiana Pacers. Let's see if he's come up here. I'm into it. Do you see me? Let's see if I can find the Mad New Yorker. I just do not know what the deal is. He claims to be up here. Let's take one more break, folks, and we'll try to get this thing squared away here. Sorry about the hold up here.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America. Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar.
All righty then, folks. I do not know what the deal is with the Mad New Yorker. He's not popping up here, so I'm just going to have to continue to talk because I don't know what's wrong with this program, but we'll just have to continue to go on here. So essentially, I like this Oklahoma City Thunder team. Let's take a look at what Keith Engle had to say going back to, and I noticed, by the way, when I clipped the Jay Wright clip, got a lot of views there of me saying, listen, Jay Wright would be an excellent fit there. He's hungry. He's rested. He's got three, talking about the Knicks job, he's got three former Villanova players there. Coach Natarena, yes, he has not coached the NBA, but your leader of the team, which is Jalen Brunson, he's coached that. I think he would fall in line. Left the college game on top, per se, and I think he's looking for that extra challenge. You say, well, guys that coach in college have not won in the NBA. Now Larry Brown's won in the NBA. It's not totally out of the question for a player, for a coach to win a national championship. Let me say he won with like Kansas or something. Then he went on to win with the Detroit Pistons there back in 2005. So it's not impossible. I do think a guy like Mike Krzyzewski would have been a successful NBA coach. But guys that are really, really good and highly sought after, like a Mike Krzyzewski, like a Jay Wright, those guys, they're not going to take a bad job. I think this is a good job, and I was hoping Carlos would come up here, but I just don't know. I don't know what the problem is because, we had Keith Engle on last night, and he was a great one. Yeah, and I guess he's just not going to be able to make it. I don't know what the problem is, but it looks like we're rolling quite fine. But let's take a listen here at Keith Engle, who disagreed with me of firing Tom Thibodeau last night.
Ridiculous.
Oh, that's what most that's the school of thought for most.
This team, Robert, this team won 7 playoff games from 2001 until Tom Thibodeau was hired. He's won 24. He got them their first conference championship in 25 years. Mark Jackson never got that team to a championship series.
That's true.
League championship series. They have gotten better each year. Some of the knocks on him, which, listen, he's not a perfect coach. We know he overplays the starters. This year he did it because he had no choice. There's no bench.
Yeah.
Where's the criticism of Leon Rose for putting this team in this position that we've got to overplay the starters because there's just no bench? Their bench was twice as good as it. They had the bench they had last year. They would have beat the Pacers. Ridiculous.
Oh, that's what, yeah. That's a good point. We didn't get a chance to really look into that. As I said, this is a general manager's league versus a coach's league. Okay. Also, wanted to play a clip here. Mike and the Mad Dog going back and forth in two different shows. They don't do a show. These are legendary guys that used to have a show back in New York 15 years ago. I think it was, I can't remember the name of the station now. I think it was WK. Well, it doesn't make any difference here. They're both saying, one saying it was Jim Dolan, the owner's call to fire Thibodeau. The other saying, no, it was Leon Rose there at the general managers. So, well, listen, Rose knows that he has an issue here. He knows if he does not make that call, he knows if he makes the wrong call on coach that he's gone. He absolutely knows that. Let's see if I can find this, and I'll play it here, folks, for you here on live on the program here, because it looks like Carlos is not going to be able to make it. I don't know what his problem is, but I know Keith lurked, and I'm checking out everything. Keith came on last night, and it doesn't see – I think it's something to do with possibly his internet here. But I wanted to play this yesterday anyways. This is from Fan House. This is Mike Francesca saying it was Leon Rose's issue. Here, listen up.
This was Leon Rose's decision. This was not Jim Dolan's decision. I feel like I have that on very good authority. I feel very comfortable with that. And like I said, I tell you with complete faith in this information that this is Leon Rose's decision and nobody else's. I feel 100%.
Well, as much as I want to come back from Mike Francesca, he used to work with Sid Rosenberg and Don Imus. I think it was CBS Radio, if I'm not mistaken, back years ago on The Fan. I want to say they were also part of The Fan. But he's saying he's been known to lie and exaggerate. Sid Rosenberg, who now does political stuff for WABC radio up in New York. Mike Francesca, as a side note, has been known to lie. That being said, Jim Dolan, the owner of the New York Knicks, has over the last few years, probably the last 8, since all this success has came, he's let the general manager and coaches do their job. He's let the front office do their job there, Jim Dolan. A lot of that was because he had been absent because his concentration had been on this massive sphere out in Vegas that he owns, which I didn't know, but he does. Of course, we know he owns this is the owner of the Knicks. We know that he owns the New York Rangers as well. So you look at that, that's a possibility. That is very much a possibility. That was Mike Francesca. Listen to Mad Dog Russo. Mad Dog Russo say the total opposite. Another big name in New York who also comes on with Stephen A. Smith. He does some work with the he does some work there with ESPN. So let's play it up.
I don't want to hear from Rose. Everybody knows that Rose had nothing to do with this. And this is Dolan. And this is Dolan. This is not Leon Rose.
Russo.
Please, don't go to Leon Rose. It's not him. This has nothing to do with Leon Rose. Leon Rose was his agent, for crying out loud. You think he's going to give him a 3-year extension last year at the end of the season and then the agent then fire him after he gets to the conference final the next year? I mean, come on. Leon's too smart for that nonsense. There's no way he would have done that. He hired him. Then he gave him a contract extension, and then they go to an Eastern Conference final for the first time in a quarter of a century, and he decides to dump him? Oh, come on. Hey, if you believe that, you believe in a tooth fairy.
You're really convinced Dolan made this kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Dolan has not.
Absolutely. I made a few calls before the show. They all told me the same thing.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
And these people have unbelievable influence within the Knick organization for the last 50 years.
So, who do you believe? You know? Either way, I mean, it was a very controversial firing. I mean, a lot of people are against this. This is probably one of the most popular teams in the NBA, and if not all of sports. You know, I want to say Forbes has them ranked as they're probably top 5. I know they're not out of the top 10 most valuable franchises in America. I know that the Yankees are up there. The Dallas Cowboys are the number 1 most valuable franchise in the world. Go figure. They haven't won a championship in almost 30 years. But it's good marketing there by Jerry Jones and whatnot. So who knows how this thing is going to play out. It's all about, like I said last night with Keith Engel, it is all about this next hire. And I was going to bring this up with Carlos, okay? Grady Little. A lot of people don't know who that name is. 2003, somewhat of a similar situation. Red Sox, Yankees. This had become a very intense rival, especially in the early 2000s. There's documentaries made about this and everything. Manager of the Boston Red Sox, Game 7, holds ALCS, holds Pedro Martinez in too long. The Yankees catch up to him. They get the lead. They shell him. And they go on and lose that game. And ultimately, they lost the series, did not get back in the World Series. Yankees got back in the World Series. In that offseason, a few days after the season's over, very controversial firing of Grady Little, the then manager of the Boston Red Sox, that a few weeks later hired Terry Francona. And the talk was, your job is to win the World Series. That's it. Win the World Series. Nothing else, you know. And obviously we know what happened in 2004. They came back 0-3, won the World Series. History was made. They broke what a lot of people called the curse here. Same thing here. I just played the stats there with Keith Engel. 24 playoff wins in 5 years or something like that versus 7 the previous 25. Very successful run there, 250-win seasons, first conference finals since 2000. And like I said, 20% that's a big percentage. You know, I do say it's 80% management and whatnot, 20% coaching there with Tom Thibodeau. So you've got to make the right call. And the idea of wanting to bring in one of these young guys, as I said yesterday, that it would be a huge. Now it worked with the Boston Celtics. Remember this guy, the coach of there the year before last, he's 36 years old. He's not even 40 years old. The Boston Celtics head coach. Okay, but let me go back here and look at some of these names I've mentioned. Guys like Johnny Bryant. That's who Keith Engel mentioned yesterday. 39-year-old assistant with the Cavs. Yes, the Cavs are playing much better. Got a whole new coaching staff here. But remember, they also replaced their head coach as well. Do you want to take a chance on a guy that young to coach this team if you're Leon Rose and anybody in that front office with the New York Knicks? I don't know. I really don't know here. I probably wouldn't. Not unless he absolutely kills it in the interview process. Now, listen, I'll throw on some big heavy hitters there last night. I mean, we're talking Jay Wright. Got a lot of views on that particular take last night. Jeff Van Gundy, who hasn't coached probably over 20 years. I guess Carlos can just comment on the just comment back and forth with me, and we can roll the show that way. Carlos says no to Wright. What do you think? Who should they hire then, Carlos? Johnny Bryant? Who should they hire? Dave Bliss, who is an assistant now with this Oklahoma City team, I don't know. I'll wait for Carlos to go ahead and put his opinion. We could do the show this way and kind of debate instead of him coming up. There's technical problems with his computer. Carlos says he won't run a career and change his experience or championship in Nova. So he's saying he won't want to change his legacy. A lot of coaches are worried about their legacy. I would not. You got 3 former players there. They're in the championship bubble. I'd say give it 3 to 5 years. Yeah, he's a young 63, but he is 63. He's not 53 or 43. He probably don't want to stay there 15 or 20 years and coach is 83 years old, per se. I would say give it a good 3 to 5 years, but you get a championship, that would really seal your legacy up. What do you do about Karl Anthony Towns, who is just allergic to defense and is addicted to that 3-ball? Are you going to be able to get a college guy in there to coach him up? Can Leon Rose do something with Towns and possibly trade him? Possibly trade a Karl Anthony Towns? I don't know. But you need to hide him and possibly go out and get some bench players. You've got some assets there. You could possibly move Hart here. Obviously, he's an asset himself there in Karl Anthony Towns. They can go out and sign another free agent, per se, get some bench guys. That's a lot easier to do. That's not a big ask. A big ask would be trying to trade Karl Anthony Towns for Giannis, and I think that's crazy talk. Carlos has another opinion. That would be a no-go. Just be sure to get better defenders. So who do you want to bring in, Carlos? Go ahead and type that in, and we'll put it on top of the screen there. Do you bring in a Mike Malone? That was my first choice last night. Listening to Keith Engel made a good point for a guy like a Jay Wright. Just got a good feeling about the guy. He's just an excellent coach. And obviously the third would be Jeff Van Gundy, also 63. And again, like I mentioned yesterday, Jeff Van Gundy is already back in the coaching. He's got 2 years back in actual coaching here with the Celtics, and I want to say with the Clippers. So now Carlos is saying it's Rose here. So he must have been and like I said yesterday, and of course playing that clip with Keith Engel, Rose is responsible. He is responsible for bringing in Towns and his poor defense, And I know a lot of players, a lot of the fans did not want Randall back because of his poor shooting in the playoff. Now, he played well this year. Now, he was injured last year. But in years past, he is not a bit of a good jump shooter with that Knicks team, per se. So we'll have to see. And then, of course, Carlos answers the question with the question, who should they bring in, Carlos? See, Carlos, I was going to give him a lot of praise tonight. He did say that Thibodeau would probably end up getting fired. That was good. And then he also said it's a team he's always talking about depth. Well, teams with depth, both of those teams and he talks about youth and depth. You got 2 pretty young teams that are deep that are in the finals. But Carlos seems to be having a bunch of complaints and not a lot of solutions. You're younger where, Carlos? Younger with the coach? You want to put in Johnny Bryant? You want to put in Dave Bliss? There's other assistants out there. You just have to search the wires and interview. I would take my time with this particular hire because this is the biggest hire probably for the organization in 20 years, if you think about it. Because a lot of people, myself included, I think there are some championship pieces on this team. You know, you just got to be able to utilize them right. You have a culture set. The culture set. Like I've made the Mark Jackson comparison. The culture is set. The confidence is there. Bridges, Brunson, Hart, these are very good, solid players here. You know, Towns is a great player. He's just not an excellent defender. You have to monitor the way you play this guy because he's a bad defender. Yes, he can hit big threes. Yes, he can get to the rim. Not consistently, but when he wants to. And he is a size guy. Mitchell Robertson, you've got two good bigs there. So Carlos says depth players didn't get the coach. He says Mike Brown knows the system, not a fan of this system. Yeah, Brown is, and my argument back to that, Brown is like a carbon copy of Thibodeau, if you ask me. Brown's been fired twice. He got fired from Cleveland. I'm going to say he recently got fired from the Kings. And I like him, but he kind of reminds me a lot of a I'd rather bring in a Stan Van Gundy personally, you know. So as you can see, it's not everybody wants the guy going, but nobody's got any solutions. I've named solutions, you know. Is 3 playing the 5 spot? Yeah, he is. He does not want to play that, even though Carlos is talking about Towns here. He is talking about Karl Anthony Towns is a guy who does not want to play in the middle. And Carlos says he does not like Van Gundy. Malone would probably be a good solid solution there with the staff around him and add a little bit of variety there. Him and Rose, they've got to get on the same page per se, and see how that would work out. It's a big job. Big story there in a nutshell. Okay, so Carlos, who do you got winning the finals and in how many games? I'm going to stick with what I said yesterday. Again, going back to the finals, that I like this Thunder team in 6. By the way, I did see something interesting yesterday. This dog that is a trending dog on the internet. Saw him on I saw this dog here, and ESPN has put his name is Gorgie, if I'm not mistaken. And this dog hits these little light basketball-like things off the top of the stairs, and you got 2 baskets here, look like trash cans, a little small. It's a pretty cute little dog. And whichever ones get 4 first is wins, and you have 1 basket that says the Thunder, and 1 basket will say the Pacers. But this dog has got a 70. Now, this is stupid, but listen, we're all a little bit superstitious. This dog has a 70% winning percentage. Yahoo Sports put this out. Air Corgi, Corgi. The Yahoo put it out this time, but it's the same dog, right? And he bounces these balls off the stairs, and he's saying that it's going to be the Pacers in 6. 70%. I think they used this dog for 8 years, so this dog's getting up there in doggy years if you like it. Carlos says his top 3 picks would be Malone, Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson, I think, would be kind of like a spitting image of here's a former Knick that have some sentimental value of Thibodeau, Jason Kidd, or Udoka. Now, Udoka's still the coach, if I'm not mistaken, of the Houston Rockets. I have read that before. I don't know if they would do something like, would the Houston Rockets take like a draft pick? Would this be one of those situations where, like the NFL, like John Gruden was traded for a first-round pick the Tampa Bay Bucks traded the Raiders a pick for John Gruden. And John Gruden went from the Raiders to the Tampa Bay Bucks, and of course it paid off. They end up winning the Super Bowl. That's another one. They moved off. What's it named? Mike Dungy? I don't know. I forgot his name now. Tony Dungy, the coach there that built that great defense. And, of course, he went and built up the defense with the Indianapolis Colts. And, of course, back in 2002, Gruden takes that Tampa team to the Super Bowl against a team he coached, the Raiders, the year prior to that. So Gruden was the man of he was the man in the NFL for a few years after that, until Belichick and Brady started just killing everybody and winning just about every year. But so that's another situation where you got a coach to put you over the top here. That could simply happen here with the New York Knicks. But Carlos says, he says Thunder in 4. I doubt the Indiana Pacers win the game. Listen, they're heavy favorites. This could very well be the case that the Oklahoma City Thunder end up winning this thing in 4 games. But I don't know. I think Indiana's too experienced. They're too deep to get swept right now. And I think that this team has a tendency to take their eye off the prize because they're so young, that Oklahoma City, to actually lose one of these games. It would be one of the road games per se in Indianapolis. Probably game 3. Carlos says the Pacers didn't fare well against OKC. No, they did not in the regular season. Yeah, you know what? But they didn't have as many wins as the Knicks, and then they smoked the Knicks. So it's just hard to say that. I think they're going to play pretty well. But I do think whatchamacallit is the better team. And you know, I don't know if anybody other than this dog is picking the Indiana Pacers. So this would be a big upset if that did happen. Now, listen, the Thunder are a great team, but they're not world beaters, you know. They're not world beaters by any means. They're not feared like that Shaq Kobe team or like that those 2 years that Durant went to the Golden State. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Either way, we're both picking the Thunder there. Carlos, while I've got you on, what are your thoughts about Aaron Rodgers? Folks, we've had some technical problems if you just join us. The Mad New Yorker cannot come on. For some reason, he's not popping up on the screen, but he is popping up in the comments. So I'll be able to talk to the Mad New Yorker this way. I'm getting his thoughts on Rodgers finally signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then I'm commenting on what he's typing in. Actually, I could have Carlos call the phone, but I don't know how that would come in on the speaker. You know what, Carlos? You could call me, and I could put you on speaker, and we can. I could do it that way, very much radio style, and I could put you on close to the microphone so we can hear you talk that way. If you want to do that, let's see. But you know, going back to that story there with. Well, this is live talking. Here it is. Okay, Carlos is calling into the station here. Let's see how this will work here. Hey, Carlos.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I got a feeling we're going to be A-okay. We got the Mad New Yorker here on the phone here.
Yeah, man. Happy Thursday, bro.
Carlos says happy Thursday. Happy Thursday at last. Thursday at last. Tomorrow will be driving Uber for the CMA Fest tomorrow. Be working late tomorrow. So what is your thoughts about the Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers? My thing is it hurts them in their quarterback chances next year, but it'll keep them interesting this year for fans and whatnot for a little bit. What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers, Carlos?
About 5 years too late. I mean, they're gonna sell a few jerseys here and there for this guy. My thing is, I don't think it's a Pittsburgh thing. I think it's an Aaron Rodgers thing. He needs to take, control, and he needs to be a QB the best that he can be at what, to the extent that he can, because he's got to prove that he was a good QB and he still is at least a good QB still in the NFL. So this is more on Aaron Rodgers than it is on Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh's just along for the ride at the end. They're going to get their wins. They're going to get, their 8 to 9 wins anyways. This is just a thing for Aaron Rodgers to see if he can be that one final piece to put him over the edge. But, I feel like the fact that the Jets didn't even want him back was something that people need to realize that, of his age, he's not really the same quarterback, And,
Yeah,
and again, it's not just his age, but a lot of these teams suffer with having one side of their line weaker than another or an unbalanced line, and so what has Pittsburgh done to improve their line? And then they lost Najee Harris as a running back there, so I mean, there's a lot riding on Aaron Rodgers, like mentally and physically, and he needs to make up his mind and just, if anything, just be a good quarterback. He doesn't have to be great, like he's already done what he's already peaked, so he should just go in and just do as best as he can to end on a better note, because what happened in New York it's not his fault, but he has to get over that.
Yeah.
So,
he don't want it to end like that,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. There is a possibility they could get to the playoffs and they get a good draw and they lose a tight field goal game and then he called it a career. He goes out with a little bit more dignity than he would have gone out with the non-playoff team with the Jets or even worse, like the year before where he tore his Achilles in the first series of the game, which have been really bad. I remember Kobe Bryant said he didn't want to go out like that,
Yeah, so I got the Ravens coming out of that division anyways, and I think that's probably going to be the last game for him in the playoffs would be against the Ravens. So, you're going to see a young quarterback versus an older quarterback, and that's going to be one of those games that's about attrition, right? To see what team has enough depth and what team will be able to win that game. And usually those games in the AFC in that division, even in the playoffs, they're a field goal short of making it to the next round. So that's pretty much going to play out like that. I mean, that's just the way the NFL is in that division. So
that's the way the NFL goes, like Janet Jackson would say. That's the way love goes. There could be a possibility, not to be Debbie Downer. There could be a possibility that the Steelers, as good as that Ravens defense is, they can end up knocking him out of the game and him being drug off the field, and that be the last time we ever see Aaron Rodgers. I hope that don't happen, but this is a very violent game. Playing in the AFC North, right?
I think that's like the worst case scenario.
That
happened to him in the Jets. He didn't even play 2 games. He just,
I got a feeling that could happen.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to bet. I don't want to put that on anybody, and that's something that could possibly happen. But I just feel like this year, the way things are working out for the Ravens, the way things are kind of starting to come together for Pittsburgh. I feel like those two guys will probably meet each other in either the first or second round, and they're not going to go past the second round. Pittsburgh, I don't think.
They'll be lucky to get to the first round. So that's you're really giving them some praise. Now that being said, Broderick Jones, third-year player out of Georgia, former first-round pick. He's got the start there at left tackle. They're moving him from right to left. And then they've got this Troy Fontenot, who's a very good player out of Washington. Second year. Yeah, you like him. You know who I'm talking about.
Right,
yeah. They're moving him over to right tackle. So they could be a little better than one would give them a little credit for. T.J. Watt's still a very good player on the defensive side. Najee Harris didn't have any push with them anyways. I like the other guy, Warren, the other running back, personally better myself. He's going to be the lead guy now, taking on the bulk of carries. You got Freiermuth, you got DK Metcalf, who is a major upgrade, and they still have faith in this Calvin Austin guy, that other receiver. So they're not a horrible team from the offensive standpoint.
The running game is what Aaron Rodgers needs.
Yes, at his age, absolutely. Yeah.
And if anything, if I'm Pittsburgh, find a fullback. Give Aaron Rodgers all the tools, availability. Give him, he's not dumb. His brain ain't slow. It's just his body slower, He'll make those plays, but again, you got to set him up to make those plays, and you got to be able to extend his time a little bit, and he can't be running backwards. He got to be running sideways, right? So you got to pick up a fullback that can help him, stretch the field, and then a running back that can catch, right? So then that you shouldn't have any issues trying to get the ball out of his hands, because he ain't running 5 to 10 yards because he can't find Metcalf open. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why I feel like to be honest with you, that's why I feel like Pittsburgh and the Ravens will be in the playoffs. Both teams. Because
that's interesting.
That's not a bad team. That's not a bad team on paper. They still got to play the game, but on paper, they're pretty okay. They just need one or two or three players there that can solidify and make sure that Aaron Rodgers has opportunities to use all the tools that he has. So.
Okay. Now that I got you on the phone, we're not writing this stuff down. Going back to the Knicks, who is your number one guy to take on as the head coaching candidate?
Listen, I would like to have Giannis on the team instead of Cat. And if you get Mike Malone, and if you get Giannis, then you go ahead and you seal that deal.
So you want Mike Malone to be your number one?
No, I want Giannis to be on the Knicks.
Well, the Giannis, I'm talking coach, man.
Yeah, no, but that's the only reason that they would that's a combo deal right there.
Okay.
It's like you can't just have a Big Mac. You got to have the fries too, man. So. Mike Malone's the fries.
Putting you on a diet, dude. I've been on the diet. I'm putting you on a diet.
But so and if it's not that, if that's not how it works, then you got to move on and you got to be patient. You got to pick up players. That you're lacking. You got to get younger, stay young as much as possible. You got to get guys that can play defense. Your coach is going to change the strategy a little bit, so you're not pressing these guys 35, 40 minutes. Your top five.
They need a backup point guard. Is there any chance they get Josh Giddey in free agency, or is he going to be too much?
Giddey is a smart player, but he plays Euro ball. He's from the Oceania.
Okay.
He's one of those players that you have to have guys that are consistently good at doing things. And right now the Knicks were lacking that. Mikal Bridges come in, shoot a few threes. They're like, I have.
But don't they need a backup? I mean, wouldn't that be nice if they could figure out a way to get him to come off the bench for Brunson? But I don't think he wants that role. He probably wants a starter's role.
Right. But I think that guys like either a coach like Kidd or Mark Jackson will bring in another type of a playmaker that's defensive. You need a defensive guy. You can't have two guys there pushing the ball around and not playing defense. So Giddey's not defensive.
Okay.
Not getting enough on the defensive side. So you need like a two. Too bad Jamal Crawford can't play no more.
He's 100 years old. That's interesting.
I've been trying to watch some of these kids play in the D League, and it's just such a different game. And when you do get when you get defense out of these guys, the games are really compelling, but there's no consistency in that end. And I think that's a struggle that a lot of NBA teams are facing as well. They have 3-4 guys, but they need that defensive guy, and it's hard to get him in the position that you need, right? So, I don't know, man. Giddey's like if you have Giddey though, he's not gonna mess with Brunson. These are guys that need the ball in their hands, so you definitely need a two, but a defensive two who's consistently playing defense and who can make that 15-foot shot.
Yeah.
Occasional three. You don't need guys that just shoot.
They need a Derek White, don't they? Yeah, off the bench. Yeah.
This is like playing. Remember back in the day when you had the NBA 2K? You could
Yeah.
That's what I wish I could do, but it's not. You got to work with what you got.
It's real world stuff. I think they'll end up getting some more bench players, and maybe they'll get a Mike Malone here if they can talk him into coming. Possibly they could get Giannis, but are you going to have to give up Bridges or somebody?
Yeah.
And Anunoby.
If that's a pipe dream, anyways. But I'll say this.
Yes, it is.
They have Deuce. That is a great, speedy, nice point guard. I think if he can switch over and play more defense and use that speed and be a little bit like Maxey, plays, who's always grinding on the defense end, I think he would be a better it'd be a better fit.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that they're taking Brunson out and putting him in, and I don't think he's a bad point guard at all. I just think that he should be on the court at the same time as Brunson. And they both can move the ball around, and then Brunson not playing defense won't hurt the team when they're going on the run. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. 56 minutes after. Do you got anything you need to plug?
Right in the moment, right now, I'm just trying to get everything organized. Summer's coming up. Since I volunteered.
Are you going to? Are you doing a Pokemon thing tonight or what?
No. I'm gonna be in New Orleans next week.
Oh, next week. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
just keep me posted. Maybe we can record a show or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I should be all right. Something uploaded today on my Mac and on my phone.
Yeah.
And it messed everything up. So I'm trying to get everything organized because I need this for more meetings in the next week. So.
All right. Well, the Mad New Yorker. If you ain't got nothing else, we'll put a round of applause on the big screen. Working right. I don't know what the deal is on your end, but the great Keith Engel got through, and
I think maybe I need to start logging in with my own screen name again.
Okay.
I was just clicking on the link, so I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it the other way.
Okay.
We'll work on it.
Appreciate you calling, brother. It's all good.
Have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
See you, man. Of course. All right, folks. I don't know how well that's going to come out, but I think it'll be okay. We shall see. Awoku Saki. Sometimes you just got to work with what you got. Got through the show. If you like the show, share the show. I'll be back probably on Wednesday. I kind of like to get Rich Ferris back. I know this is vacation times. Guy's got a family. He's got kids. If he's not on vacation, love to get him on. Talk about this cam board, a Virgin Stair. Mini camp Stair. What does he think about? What did he hear about? What the Titans were getting offered and whatnot. Love to get him back on. Love to get John Restano back on and talk the Chicago Bears, the Buffalo Bills with him. And there's a lot of stuff I want to get to. A lot of stuff that's from the draft. I know the guys that cover these teams that I still haven't got to. And at some point I'm going to get to them. Your John Ristanos of the world, your Rich Ferrises of the world. I may get on Roy, my neighbor, back on. Crochet Klatt and her kids, the great comedian here in Nashville. So, anyways, folks, I appreciate you watching. Sorry about our technical difficulties. Have a good night. I'll see you next week. Otherwise, here on the Real Sports Scope. Have a good night, everybody.